Hello everyone and welcome to Unicorn Light Tarot. Sincerely hope everybody is doing amazingly well today. Thank you for joining us today, whether you are brand new or whether you've been here for a while. We have a wonderful reading today. Today we are going to find out what 3 wishes are being granted to you at this time. It's your wishes reading. Yay! So as always, we have 3 piles. So pile number 1 has your yellow feather, pile number 2 has your blue feather, and pile number 3 has your pink feather. As always, take as much time as you need to come back to you. The more aligned you are with your own soul and your own intuition, the more aligned you are with the collective, and that of course is the energy that we're really reading today, because these are general readings. So if you need to go ahead and pause the video, feel free to do that. The timestamps are always down below. And of course, do bear in mind these are general readings. Take what resonates. Do not worry about what doesn't. If one pile does not resonate, feel free to choose another pile. If that pile doesn't resonate, then maybe the messages are not for you today. But do check back with us in the future, because I'm sure there will be messages for you. So let's go ahead and find out all about your wishes today. I'm going to put aside pile 2 and pile 3 for now. So if you chose pile 1, excuse me, a little bit of sage there, and cat hair apparently. So if you chose pile 1, then yellow is your feather, the color of communication. Let's go in and find out. We're going to start off with Oracle and move on to some tarot for clarity. So your 3 wishes. Let's see. So you've got the Sacred Woman is your first card. Boop, boop, boop. There you go. It's a beautiful card. And then you have Serendipity. And Reparent Yourself. And then with Ganesha you have Revelation number 15. That's beautiful. Okay, pile 1. So your 3 wishes granted. These are not small wishes at all. These are absolutely beautiful. So there's a movement from what you knew from your past. There's a significant difference between your past and your future. One would hope so. But for you, it's more about sort of reevaluating who you are and what you want and what your needs are. And also there's a movement away from what you knew before, which is a good thing, because that way you can choose differently. So there's an energy movement here. So the reparenting yourself is really all about being very clear about who you are in the world and what you want in the world to move forward. Now, before, you were very clear about what you didn't want for the most part. And sometimes you were clear about what you thought you wanted, and either you got it and then you spent some time trying to get out of it, or you weren't really clear about what it is that you wanted or you thought you wanted. It comes into focus for you. And then it sort of goes out of focus. When you get closer to it, you're wondering if this is what you really want. So there's a clarity of vision here. And this really all comes down to knowing who you are and knowing your worth. When you know your worth, things just come more into clarity a little bit. So it's the reason why for some of you, not everything's come to fruition, what it is that you thought you wanted, is because you're actually being sort of prompted to ask for more, and you're being prompted to really be very specific about what you want and sort of go for gold, as it were. So not everything's going to pan out for you, because if it did, it would have held you back. So this clarity of vision that's coming in, that's very, very specifically linked to coming out of a belief system that held you back. And again, this was very directly correlated to you not feeling as though you were good enough or that you could keep what you wanted. It's not that a lot of you are very clear on success, and you've worked very hard on that. You've reestablished what you consider success is, and all of that is fine. And there's a part of you that really does believe that you can gain it. But again, It's whether you can keep it. That's kind of the big thing for you. So this is your wish granted is this is a very deep wish, because this is whatever it is that you want for yourself coming in, and being able to have the stable base in order to be able to attract it. So that's not a small thing. And then the serendipity, again, this is huge for you too, because there's a part of you that really, and it's not about control. You've worked with this sort of control versus alignment for a while. You've been open to what it is that you've wanted, but at the same time there's an impatience within you, which is completely fair enough. But there's an impatience within you that if it doesn't happen within a certain time, then you sort of speed it up. And you're sort of helping the universe move forward, right? Because you're just moving things forward, you're making things happen. And society sort of tells us that we need to go out there and make things happen. It's very action oriented. But not a lot of people take time to figure out what's behind those actions, what's really driving those actions. So for you, there is this complete alignment without the need for control. And again, the control really wasn't about control. Well, it sort of was really when it came down to it, but you didn't see it that way, which is totally fine, because there's an energy of wanting to move forward. There's an energy of feeling like this is the right time. And of course, this is a timing element for you, and it is the right time for you. So this is all about allowing the universe to sort of deliver. And when it's put next to this desire to know yourself, to know what it is that you can truly achieve, and to be open to it, then there's really nothing stopping you. And of course, what happens is you've got the sacred woman. And this is more about not a gender thing necessarily, but this is more about being very connected to the earth, to the divine feminine. And again, this receptivity of allowing this to happen. Now, there's a reason for why many of you have not really succumb to this understanding of allowing the universe to deliver. It's because a lot of you have felt as though you've allowed things to happen to you. That wasn't really quite the case, but that's the way you feel, and that's perfectly reasonable under the circumstances. It felt as though because you're so empathic and there's so much to you, that it felt like for some of you, as you were living life, you were sort of being taken by the wind and trying to figure out what was going on, and it's sort of windswept here and there. And it's not that you felt as though you were a victim necessarily of the world in any way, shape or form. Even if you had this understanding about yourself, you've moved out of that mentality. But it's about, you've definitely had this understanding that, things have happened to you. And in that, there's a real deep understanding that if you keep moving and if you keep in action, then these things won't happen to you. It's almost like, the things won't be able to find you. If you keep moving, you have more of a chance of things not happening to you. And that's perfectly reasonable considering where, the life experience that most of you have had. But of course, it doesn't quite work like that. But at the same time, it was important for you to really click into the action part of things too. And it's not that you weren't taking responsibility. You take profound responsibility for your life. In fact, you take profound responsibility for other people's lives around you too, taking on that energy also. So for you, it was really about establishing that sort of safety in the world where you could allow yourself to be receptive, where you can allow yourself to stay in one place and just breathe deeply and know that everything was going to be okay. There's an essence of you that sort of needs to be constantly moving. Now, it doesn't have to be physically moving, but sometimes it meant that, your mind was constantly going. So it was constantly looping round, or something was always happening. And that's not to say that you wouldn't be good at meditation, but for some of you, it wouldn't really be your thing. So this is all about sort of allowing in the receptivity again, but that coupled with the understanding of who you truly are and what you can truly gain in this world, the knowledge that you can gain and the path that you can really click into, that's absolutely massive. And again, this path may not be exactly set for you yet. And we want to be very clear about that, because you may have an essence of what you want, which is absolutely beautiful. But the revelation here is about that maybe things are going to change for you. Maybe you're going to change your path in a way. Maybe you're going to go bigger and better in a direction that you never thought that you would have. And this is going to be sort of, this path can be given to you when you're receptive to it, when you're completely open to it. Again, the communication between yourself and your past and re-releasing all of that. And when we say re-releasing, there's always a releasing from your past. It always feels like even every day you're releasing, you're cognizant of that. You're very aware that your past has held you back, or certain aspects of your past, the way in which you feel about it has held you back. But at the same time, it's really about understanding that you held the power all along. You weren't really given a lot of credit for how strong you were, or you weren't really seen for who you were when you were sort of younger and as you were growing up. So it was difficult for you to really ascertain your own power and then to access it. It's almost like you weren't in a position to access your power early on, so you didn't know you had it. So when it showed up in ways that could have sort of freaked you out. You're like, oh my goodness, they're very powerful. But because it wasn't sort of integrated yet, it almost felt like your power was external to you. So that could have frightened you, and in turn could have frightened other people. But this is an internalization that you've been working with and really accessing your power in a new way. Once it's accessed and integrated fully, and you're really aware of how brilliant you are and what you can achieve. And again, it doesn't need to be specific. Then you get into this beautiful understanding that you can be completely receptive and open. And that's when you have this gorgeous reaction to the universe. You can work in tandem with the universe. What's next for me, universe? What's next for me? As long as you are working for your highest good, for you and the collective, there's nothing that you cannot achieve, because everything that you've been through has allowed you to see pretty much everything you possibly can. So you have this incredible humility. You have this incredible knowledge of how people are. Now, this is really important because a lot of people, and we've seen this particularly, this has sort of come to highlight, maybe the last 10 years, but particularly in the last sort of 8 years and very much in the last 2 years, where you see people getting very irate about things, right? And it doesn't matter whether they're spiritual or not. This is going across all communities, and everybody's getting very irate about things because they're constantly filtering through information based on their own mentality. And of course, the way in which you see things is you just allow them to happen, sort of this version of truth, this universal truth. So when people speak to you, of course, you're not actually filtering what they're saying through your own being, through your own version of events. So you allow people to be who they are. You allow people to have the experience that they've had. And this creates this incredible humility. And even though there's times that you can get yourself in quite a state, Pahawan, there is this inner peace that's always been within you. And when you access it, it's absolutely incredible. Now, you don't always access it, and you can't always access it at the time that you need, but it is there, and you're aware that it's there. So it's absolutely beautiful. And people sense this about you. And this is an incredible thing to have, because of all the experiences that you've been through, you can really tell who people are, and again, give them the space to really show who they are. And again, if you just give people the space to show who they really do, and not to be, in this polarity, good or bad, but that you don't need to give everybody your time. You can give everybody your space, but you don't have to give everybody your time. So when you're clicked into that peace, that understanding of who you are, people show themselves extremely fast to you in a way that it would take far more longer. That's not grammatically correct, but you know what I mean. It would take far longer for them to show themselves to other people, because some people are real chameleons, but you have a sense of people immediately, and you allow people to be who they are. And this is something that you will be able to integrate very much into something that you do in this world. And again, as you take this knowledge on, whether you integrate it into your art, whether you integrate it into your work, whether you integrate it into your life, whatever it is, you give people space to be who they are. And again, that incredible humility of allowing people to be who they are without, forcing them to fit into some kind of idea of society, which is all crumbling anyway. And this is something that you've able to acquire because of all the experiences and because of everything that you've been through, and also because of that mirrored experience, because really at the end of the day, you weren't given that space to be who you are. So even though you've been through this incredible sort of life that you've had. And we've got the star here. I want to pick this up. So, you can go, this is supposed to be a big life for you, pile one. And we don't want to, I'm not sure that really popped out for you. Now, we don't want to freak you out in any way, because you're absolutely in control and in which direction you go. But at the same time, this can be a big life for you. You've come in, you've had many, many different lifetimes, many lifetimes leading up to this lifetime. And you know you were going to achieve whatever it is that you wanted to achieve in this lifetime. And again, this could be very different for each and every one of you. But we would be very, say to you at this point, to make your dream even bigger, if that's possible. And just allow it to come in. So let's see what we have for you with the tarot. But this reparenting yourself and this new sort of really profound relationship with the divine feminine and the receptivity, and just this real knowing of who you are and your absolute worth. And it comes in, this revelation can really come in at this moment where it clicks into fruition in a way that it never has before. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. So with the sacred woman, you have the sun. That's beautiful. And you've got this understanding with the sun, with this very divine masculine energy too. So again, we want to be very clear when we say to you, this receptivity, allow things to happen. There is this understanding, there's this very sort of Leo energy, this very divine masculine action energy. So when you get the inkling to move forward in a receptive manner, you take that action, and it's going to be this beautiful divine action. And what's going to happen is, before you've been spinning your wheels, you've taken this action, and it's because you put so much energy into it, not that much really came out of it. And then you think, with all the energy that I put into this, my goodness, this should have produced so much more. And this has been kind of something that's been going on for you, and it's been kind of frustrating a little bit. But again, clicking into the divinity of who you are, and again, the divinity, of course, the divine feminine, really knowing who you are and everything that you've been through, that's brought you here, that moves you forward. Now, there's a divine timing element to this. And of course, we talked about this at the beginning to reiterate this understanding of, you're good at a lot of different things. And while that's absolutely wonderful, that could have confused you before. And just because you're good at it, you don't necessarily need to do it for a living. So it's really about clearing the decks for you, figuring out what your heart truly wants to do, and maybe taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, sort of like a spell, or putting different aspects for a beautiful recipe, if you want to put it like that, making a beautiful soup with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but listening to your inner soul, rather than saying, all right, I'm good at this, I'm going to make this work. This is really about you trying to figure out what it is that you wanted to do, but not taking what you do and then fitting that into a sort of box and seeing how that opens up for you. This is this receptive, and again, this receptive energy, but this divine action that comes in that says, no, this is for you. This is an opportunity that can absolutely come in for you, and you are designed for this. You've got the human design going on here. This is in your blueprint. So this is an incredible way forward. It really takes out the guesswork of what to do next, right? Because I think for a lot of you, that's really what it is. A lot of you really know the end result of the sort of life that you want to have. When you try that on, that's really easy for you to access. But getting there has been a little bit difficult. You've tried different ways. So this is a way for you to really release into this understanding and have an easier time for it. Yeah, you've got the Nine of Wands here, and then you've got the Three of Pentacles. This is about really understanding all of your gifts and being able to utilize them in a sort of more productive way, in a way, not in a way that, you're sort of slammed into this understanding of who you are, and then you're locked into, all right, I do this now. And then a part of you goes, oh, I don't want to. Because there is a part of you that feels that freedom, and again, that peacefulness within, and it's always wanting to sort of go off and do other things. So when you choose something, it's got to be something that incorporates lots of different things. Otherwise, it's going to confuse you, and you're not going to be that happy, because you're going to feel as though you're sort of stagnant. That can happen to you very, very quickly. You have sort of these quick wheels that go around, but also there's an understanding that this is a life that you're having, and you want to have all the experiences that you can have. And this is something that you've come from, and a lot of the experiences that you've had a lot of ups and downs. They've not all been great experiences, but they've taught you so much. And you wouldn't have changed that for the world, because really what you're here to do is to have those experiences. Some people are born into a box and they stay in that box and they want to stay and they defend that box. And there's no judgment. We're all here for different reasons. But they don't want to stay out. They don't really want to be outside of that box. And if you're not within a box, then they judge you because that's all they know. And this is literally the complete opposite of who you are. You've been working outside of the box from the beginning. But if there's anything, there's even an inkling of something that can box you in, you're looking for something else to get you out of there. So it's really important for you to incorporate many different things and have a lifestyle that, again, allows you to be receptive to move on to the next thing, but at the same time always be moving forward in whatever you want to do, and to really move into this understanding of success and whatever that means to you. And for each and every one of you, that's been different. It's been overhauled, right? You've been dealing with the understanding of success and what that means to you versus the world for a while. But there's no reason why you shouldn't have material success and be able to have the freedom that you want to have, to be able to do and have these experiences that you want. So it's all about that deep knowledge of who you are, that communication with yourself and your past. And again, these 3 wishes moving forward, they're not small wishes. It all comes back, it culminates into you becoming who you were always meant to be. And of course you always were that, but allowing sort of just these fragments to fall away. Normally we say, pull those fragments back to you. But for you, allowing those fragments of the past to really fall away and allow yourself to have the life that you want. And when we say allow, we do mean the word allow, because at the end of the day, the universe is there to support you no matter what. They are always saying yes to you. When you ask for things, the universe says yes immediately, and then you change your mind so often, or it's not happening quick enough, so you try to help the universe out, that you sort of get in your own way. But you have to understand that when you want something, the universe says yes. It's just that sometimes when it's not delivered, you're not sure that that's exactly what you want. So again, open up whatever it is that you want. And really work with the universe. What is it that I need to do today to really reach my highest self? What does my highest self want to do today? The highest for the collective. And see how quickly your life takes off. Again, this revelation of what it is that you can achieve in this lifetime is infinitely bigger than you think that you can even achieve. And even for those of you who are like, oh yeah, right, but I've got this huge dream that I've always wanted. Trust us, it can go even bigger. And this is what life has been preparing you for, your entire life, to be able to deal with success, like, actual material success, to be able to be humble, to be able to relate to people, to be able to hold space for people on their terms, not yours, to be able to have this kind of life where you genuinely feel as though you have this connection to the world, connection to people. You're here to do something great and beautiful, bring some kind of love, laughter, gorgeousness to people's lives. Again, how you do that, whether that's one-on-one, whether you're an artist, whether you do that in a collective form, you'll all be different. In fact, a lot of you will be working sort of in individual form and in the collective form when you do this. Because again, you do not want to settle for just one thing. You constantly want to be moving and doing other things. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. Like, incorporate absolutely everything and still have this incredible life with beautiful experiences. So let's go ahead and pull you a couple of cards here from the Magical Unicorn deck. So this is a divine timing element for you. And when we say divine timing, let's choose these 2 for you. Divine timing is all about when you're ready, when your energy is ready, and then the universe can really step in and help you. Now, you're definitely ready. Rainforest, the good luck card, number 10. Absolutely, you're definitely ready to be able to do this. All souls, life is meant to be enjoyed. Absolutely. And that's what we talk about, that receptivity, reopening everything up. The good luck card, you've got the sun card. There's nothing that you cannot do here and move in any direction. Again, it's about having that receptivity and not really just forging one path. It might be great for you to forge maybe 3 or 4 paths and then say to the universe, which one is for my highest good? And also, which one will get me there quicker? Say it. There's no harm. And the one thing about you we can say, Pile 1, is that you've gone around and around so many times that there's no reason why your soul doesn't. We know why your soul wants things to be a little bit quicker, because you've painstakingly gone through things your whole life. So of course there's no reason why things shouldn't be sort of quicker and effortless when you're in alignment. So you asking for that is perfectly reasonable. Everything is on your side to go in and claim whatever it is that you want. Just allow in the space so the revelations can come and really click in to this new mode of being as you move forward. So this is what we have for you, Pile 1, sending you so much love and light for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. If you have not subscribed, feel free to do that. We would love to have you, and click that bell icon so you never miss one of these deep psychological readings that we have here on Unicorn Light Tarot. And of course, we have a ton of links down below for you to get in touch or be in support of this energy. There's many different things, podcasts, you'll see it down below. Always listen to your intuition and click on whichever link floats your boat. I don't know if that's a saying or if that's the right saying for this, but I think you get what I'm saying. All right, my darlings, until we meet again, take care, Pile 1. Bye-bye. Hey, my lovely Pile 2s. If you chose the blue feather, then this is your reading. And of course, today we are doing what 3 wishes are being granted to you at this time. So let's start off with our oracle, and then we will move on to tarot a little later. So we'll put Ganesha aside for a while. So we have abundance. Beautiful. Can't go wrong with that card straight away. Come into frame there. And then we have inner peace. Gorgeousness. And then you have the rainbow reviver. That's beautiful. And let's see what Ganesha has to say too. I'm going to put your blue feather over there. New beginnings. Look at this. Number 1. Love this. Okay, so your 3 wishes that are being granted. Now, these wishes are a long time coming in for you. They're also your wishes, which is really beautiful. So the first thing that's happening is the rainbow reviver is doing things completely on your own terms. So it's sort of coming to the point where you've done so much work on yourself, and you've definitely done this too with your bloodline. There was a really heavy bloodline for a lot of you that was coming in, a lot of past life energy too, really, really old soul. So when you came into this lifetime, you were working off a ton of karma at the beginning. It didn't even feel as though it was really your life yet, at least in this lifetime, because there was so many sort of soul contracts coming in. It felt like sort of drudgery, like quicksand in a way. You didn't really go under and necessarily feel that way, but there were so many soul contracts with the relationships that you had that was just, it was dark, it was heavy. So there was so much going on for you. And then what happened is that you get into the point of your life where you do feel as though a lot of those soul contracts are out. And then you're left with the sludge of it all and having to negotiate your feelings and your understandings. And of course, having to really pull through and pull out all of the sort of the drudgery that was left over from the soul contracts. And again, go back into this bloodline that you have. It's very, very heavy. Now, we want to be very clear. You have a very powerful bloodline too. It's extremely powerful. The power that you have in this lifetime to ground into your own energy is incredible when you do it. But because there was so much that came with your bloodline too, and again, with a lot of old karma, it was difficult for you to really click into inner peace, to the fact that a lot of you didn't really understand who you were, or really didn't know yourself. Now, it wasn't from the lack of trying. It's not like, some of you may have gone out of your way to sort of escape that in some ways, and there's many different ways that we can do that, and that's totally understandable, because at that point you still saw yourself as very much a part of the bloodline, and as you were trying to cleanse it, and there's parts of it that were quite toxic, you saw yourself as part of that. So there wasn't this real need or this desire at that time to really know yourself, which again is totally fair enough, because as you were dealing with all of this and as you were working through it, all of this work that you did in the collective or with the bloodline eventually, of course, will get back to you. But there was no real point in working on yourself like at the beginning, because it was really important for you to clear bloodline stuff, because that was really what weighed you down in this lifetime. So coming back to a sense of yourself, there's this real essence of freedom that you've never had before, because you were sort of the, not to put any pressure on you, but there's an essence of you that was the hope of, your bloodline, because you carry the strength with you. Everything that you've been through in past lives has really prepared you for this lifetime, and you chose to come to this lifetime. This lifetime was not going to be easy for you at the beginning, and then of course we've got this sort of crumbling of society, and it's being, with war, with everything that's going on right now, it's being pushed to the hilt. So it's and then it's, the crumbling is happening, but it's really being pushed to the outer edges before it crumbles for good. So it's an extreme way of being in the world, right? And then the way in which you were brought up, or the experiences you had, there was nothing sort of lesser than with it. There was always this sort of extreme essence of what you were going through too. So you've had an extreme life in many ways. Now that prepares you for pretty much anything, really, one way or another, and it allows you to have this understanding, very different energy from pile one, but it does allow you sort of this receptivity to this understanding in this world, to really understand how people live in it, and what living in this world does to people specifically. But also you really have a lot of compassion for people who have grown up in in circumstances that were less than befitting for a human being to grow up with, not being seen, or any kind of sort of abuse and trauma, that sort of thing. You really can hold space for people with that. In fact, that's, for some of you, that may be what you will be doing in this lifetime. There's many different ways to do this. Again, this came up in pile one, whether you're working one-on-one, whether you're an artist, whatever it is. But whatever it is that you're here to do, you're here to soothe the old way of life that we've had, and move into sort of this new understanding of this new earth, this new way of being, with humanity at its center, with understanding each person without there being judgment based on X, Y, and Z. There's so many different reasons to judge people, right? And again, as you are working on your releasing everything from that, it's sort of like this tunnel almost, where there's so much darkness in this tunnel, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But as you've released everything from your bloodline, everything opens up for you. And of course, whatever's been released is mainly about how in the past your ancestors had to live in this world. And of course, there's certain things that we did, certain agencies, certain limitations, whatever it is that we did in order to survive. There's a lot of survival mechanisms in your bloodline. I suppose there's a lot in many bloodlines. I don't think yours is an anomaly in any way, but yours really is latent with them, very, very heavy with them. So that could have held you back just a little bit. Now, it didn't hold you back from being who you were, but it held you back from wanting to choose something until the divine timing was right, because you knew that if something was given to you, you wouldn't have had the inner peace to keep it sort of in your realm, and to really appreciate abundance. So for you, going small, really seeing everything in the mind's eye, in the moment. There's an essence of you that's always looking over your shoulder, or in the past, always looking over your shoulder to see when the shoe was going to drop, or what's going to happen, or and this was part of your bloodline. So you couldn't, even if you achieved something, you couldn't really enjoy it for that long. So this is a really beautiful time for you to be able to come back to self with this inner peace of knowing that you're in this new sort of version of self, which is completely free from the past. Now, there was a part of you, this may not be for every single one of you in pile two, but there was a part of you that was very aware of this understanding of what you were doing, clearing your bloodline, but also at the same time, you wanted to keep close to that bloodline in some ways, because it's your family, right? So for some of you, there was this weird sort of ending, relationship with the ending. You wanted to do the work and clear everything up. Of course, you knew you were going to do that, and that's what you were supposed to do in this lifetime. But at the same time, you didn't want to feel any disconnection from your family. And of course, it took you a long while to realize that there was no disconnection through this work. In fact, there's more connection with this work. But as your mind, as you were moving through it, it was difficult for you to really ascertain that, because you're trying to get back to that connection and feeling as though if you're clearing out the past, then how can that connection come in? So this has been a long time coming for you, because you've gone into clearing out, and then you've stopped sometimes, and then you've gone into the clearing out, and then you've stopped sometimes, just trying to sort of reactivate where you are, and the relationship you have with your family. Now, this may not be a physical relationship with the family. For some of you, you may not be as in touch with them, and some of you, you've come back into touch with them, but in a completely different way. So you notice every time you clear out the family bloodline, something shifts, something lightens up. And again, this can happen with family members who have passed over also. You feel, the way you feel about them is lighter. The way you feel about them is there's more understanding, there's more compassion. Again, we want to be very clear on Unicorn Light Tarot. We're not suggesting in any way if anything was done to you that A, it was your fault, or B, that you deserved it in any way. So this is not necessarily about forgiveness. There's many different ways to do this. There's a forgiveness process where you relinquish any power that it had over you and pull your power back. So if you need to forgive yourself or forgive the situation, that's fine. It's not about excusing what somebody did to you if it was not good. That's not what we're saying. So this is about coming back to an essence of power that's completely in your realm, that's completely in a new way of being, that allows in this abundance that you've been, that you absolutely and completely deserve. But again, the essence of what was going on with your with the soul family essence, this understanding of we can't have what we want, or it will be taken away from you. Now, in the past, with your family bloodline, things were taken away. There could have been war, there could have been civil war, there could have been, things were actually taken away. There was a very specific reason why that was very heavy on your bloodline. But again, that was because you come from a very powerful bloodline. So wherever your family were, they were in the thick of it, right? Fighting in the front lines, whatever they were doing. And that could be like physically or figuratively, whichever way they were doing it. But this is a new beginning for you. This is you on the other side of it. You've been watching that light at the end of the tunnel for so long. And there's been times where you've been able to see, that light come closer and closer and closer. But now you're on the other side of this. And this is a complete new freedom for you. This is a connection to the land, to your life in a way that you've never really had before. Because before you were sort of looking back a little bit, or you were doing the work for other people. This is the way you can come back to yourself. And again, what comes along with it is this inner peace, because you're not constantly alchemizing all this old energy. Now, there was, on top of everything, because you're so powerful and you're such a clear empath, which went against you a little bit in this lifetime. Well, not against you, but because you were able to alchemize all of this information, whatever you were doing with your bloodline, you also attracted the people who had the same sort of energy, but not necessarily the same power. So you were able to alchemize them too. So for a while, all the work that you were doing, which was already pretty heavy, you were attracting other people that also had very heavy energy. But not all of them wanted to be responsible for their energy. They could sense that you were going to do some of the work for them, right? And this is sort of unspoken soul contracts, right? They're not always obvious, because soul contracts, you have this immediacy with somebody, this immediate connection, and we don't really know what it is, but we trust that connection. But that connection with the soul contract could have held you down even more. And so when you find, like, people coming in with the same sort of soul contracts, and you putting down those boundaries, because it was really important for you to figure out those boundaries. You had to learn those boundaries. So when you figured out those boundaries and then you let those people go, you realize that they represented an aspect of something much deeper, an aspect of your family bloodline. So as you were healing that, you were also healing the family bloodline too. So there was many different variants of you working with this energy, and it was not small energy. This energy and this, whatever you've been doing, is not for the faint-hearted. Again, the power that you have is wonderful. It's extreme. It would have broken other people. They wouldn't have been able to do it. Now, you've had your bouts of anxiety, you've had your bouts of depression, and even learning how to numb yourself, or whatever it is that you needed to do. You've had your bouts with all of that, and that's part and parcel of who you're meant to be too. Because you're here to sort of to be open to every experience. And again, you have this in common with pile one, but very different energy. So there's nothing that, for the most part, nothing that you wouldn't try once per se. Now, you're in a different stage of your life now. But you allowed yourself to really go deep and really to feel everything and to make the decisions that you've made. Not all of them have been fantastic for your inner being and for yourself, but you've learned a lot from that. It's that you never had this inkling about destroying yourself. In fact, there's one thing that you've had that's really kept you alive and kept you sort of above board, is that you really clicked into this understanding that you're an energy and that we're in meat suits, right? So you may not have looked after your body the way that you could have in certain aspects of your life, and you've come back to it and then you've looked after it. But at the same time, this inkling, and this it's not an inkling, this really profound knowing that you are a spirit. You cannot be killed. You're always there. There's something eternal about you. And this sort of gave you the liberty to sort of go off and for some of you, and this maybe only for some of you, there were extreme things that you did, not maybe extreme sports, certain things that you did where you really invited in death in a way. You flirted with it a little bit because there was no fear there. If anything, you might be more afraid of living because you're trying to figure out how to get back to yourself than you are of dying. So that energy, in this very sort of strange way, but a very profound way, protected you. So you're incredibly healthy considering what you put yourself through and what you've seen in this lifetime. And again, this for other things that are still lingering, this health matters can really, and we're not doctors. Please go and work with this physician and however you work, herbalist or whatever. But there are things that really can be cleared up now as you come out on the other side of this. Now let's get you some more information with the tarot here. But yeah, you've got this beautiful new beginning that's coming in for you. Now you've had these inklings where you've come into a new plateau, excuse me, of understanding. And you feel as though you've come out on the other side of something, and you could have shifted into this understanding that that's a new beginning, and you weren't wrong. You weren't wrong. It was a different kind of energy, and you've been working with vibration. But this is an absolute new beginning, though. This is coming out on the other side of all of this work that you've been doing for good. Now you've been very close to coming out on the other side for a very, very long time in some ways, but this is clicking into a new knowledge of who you are. So yeah, the Hermit reversed, absolutely beautiful, and the Queen of Cups. These are actually supposed to be on the other side. I'm going to turn this up for you. Yeah, and the Page of Wands. I'm going to turn this up for you, and the Seven of Swords here. So this is, the work that you've been doing has sort of kept you in darkness a little bit. So you really understand darkness in a way that other people don't. And that's part of it too, that power of not really caring in some ways and not really being afraid of the dark in some ways. Now, ironically, some of you may actually sleep with a nightlight because you understand what goes on in the dark. But really, when it comes down to it, the essence of it and what lurks in there, or the darkness, or even going one step further, evil, you really understand what all of that is. And you understand that in human form, which is really important. A lot of people in this lifetime talk about evil all the time, and they really see it as something external to themselves. And of course, they keep themselves in the sort of the dark. And if we do this and we believe this, we'll be protected. And that's, if that's the way you think things work, that's fine. No judgment. But you have a much deeper understanding of there's darkness within and there's darkness without, right? There's darkness everywhere, but it can be utilized by the light if we understand it. And there is a certain circumstance around darkness where it can be our friends. And for the most part, our gifts and who we are can be shrouded in darkness too. So you know how to do that. You know how to work with the ego, and you know how to help people do that, guide people do that. Again, there's a myriad of different ways that you can do that, but you have the passion for that. Your passion in this lifetime, and it starts with you, of course, is being able to see yourself in this complete freedom from the world that you were born into, from your past, including past lives, from any kind of aspect of darkness that you've inherited, right? Being free from all of that and guiding people through that light. And of course, being absolutely cognizant and in, when we say control, maybe that's not the right word, but really understanding the depth of emotionality on both sides, the light and dark of who you are, not being afraid of it, and standing in that own power. And people sense that about you now. You know, there's a click in your personality where, again, you come out on the other side with your wishes here. So, you know, people sense that power in you that you've always had, but you weren't clicked into it. You weren't utilizing it in a direct form. In fact, it was sort of more external to you. So there's a part of you that could have been testing yourself or testing others around you, or even battling within, and you know, aspects of yourself that you were fighting within. But this is something that, again, that you've come out of, and this is what this new beginning is. Really coming into this inner peace, trusting that abundance, and again, really having this foundation of being able to do that because you were on the other side of, you know, for want of a better term, pain. Right, so you understand it on all levels, and also you can sense it in people. Now, when people act a certain way, it's all coming from their conditioning. It's all coming from, you know, a certain aspect of them. It's very rarely coming from their soul and their essence of who they are, from that inner peace, right? A lot of people are frightened, especially in the last 2 years, so that's been ramped up. So people are coming in from this sort of angry, kind of very secluded kind of mentality. And again, there's no judgment with that. That's totally fine. Sometimes, you know, fear is its own keeper, as we say. You know, it does a number on your mind and who you think you are. So this is something that you've transcended, quite frankly, and you were able to do this, and because you've done the work and you stayed in that work, when other people sort of started with that work and then went off in different directions because the fear came in and sort of activated something within them. It kind of went off, and it doesn't mean that they can't come back to themselves, but, you know, just made everything a little bit more complicated for themselves, and focused on the external. You've always been focused on the internal, which is incredible. That's where all the work lies. And that's the minute you work on that, and the minute you rectify or integrate all of that, your external world changes, right? And we see this a lot, and people talk about this a lot, and yet they don't do it, right? Again, no judgment. But this is something that you've understood, and you've seen it in other people, right? It doesn't make them a hypocrite in any way, shape, or form. It just means that they are working with exactly what they can right now. And we underestimate fear so often in society, where people are ruled by it, and yet they're telling you that they're not. And this is my power. This is my power. It's really fear. So this is something that you've broken down for yourself. And the beauty about you is that you there's a part of you that doesn't want to break down, but there's aspects of you that you've allowed yourself to break down and to pull yourself back up. And there's a passion in that. You're not afraid to relocate the pain, or really find out where it is, or reestablish yourself. Somebody completely different. You probably had 3 or 4 different lifetimes in this one lifetime already of reestablishing yourself. Whereas people get really intentional about who they are and what they're doing in this world, and they don't really leave it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you are completely the opposite. So for you, it's going to be really nice to have this foundation where you are just sort of one thing right now. And again, this one thing can move in any direction, but this is you're the opposite. The abundance will come from this absolutely grounding foundation that you've made for yourself through this incredible work that you've done. Again, we want to acknowledge that this incredible work will integrate you into this world with this immense power that you're now very connected to in this lifetime, and allow yourself, because you're allowing yourself this incredible new beginning where you're moving forward without fighting aspects of yourself now. And you're just in complete agreement with who you are at this time. And again, all of this can shift, but you have this foundation of beauty and openness and sort of ripeness. It might be a little bit of an icky word to use in the circumstances, but it came up, and I don't like to filter what comes up. So this ripeness, you feel ripe, and you have this, again, it just feels really weird. You know you're channeling when it feels a little, yeah, I never would have chosen that phrasing myself, but this passion to move forward in any direction. So choose the direction you want. Really sit with the direction that you want. But we would say at this time, you don't have to have a clear view of which direction. Just be open to it. The passion that you have will move you in the right direction. In fact, for you, sometimes going off the beaten path brings you this new level of revelation, and then you move quicker into what you want. That's kind of how you do things. Like, a lot of people will look at your life and go, don't really get it. Do not get it. They love who you are, right? But they don't get it. And that's fine. You're not here for other people's approval. You're here to love yourself and to really get that deep love and appreciation for oneself, and to stand that ground so other people will know how to do that for themselves, whether you physically teach them or whether you stand in that power and just by doing that, showing people and allowing people to do that themselves. There's a real quietness to you. Some of you are very rambunctious, though. Some of you are very much integrated, or when you're integrated into the world, you can be the life and soul of the party. But there's this inner knowledge, this inner agreement, this inner beauty. It's very sane, and it's very quiet. It's very beautiful. So allowing that to come to the forefront and moving in any direction that you want is going to bring you pretty much whatever you want in this lifetime. So that's what we have for you, Pal 2. We're sending you so much love and beauty for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today. If you have not subscribed, we would love to have you. If you feel like it, hit that bell icon so you never miss 2 of these beautiful readings. These deep psychological readings. And of course, we have tons of links down below, from the website to the podcast. So check us out for more support with this energy. And always listen to your intuition and see where it takes you. And we'd love to see you again. So until we do, take care, Pal 2. Bye-bye. Okay, my beautiful Pal 3s, if you chose the pink feather, this is your reading. And of course, we are doing what 3 wishes are being granted to you at this time. This is a timeless reading. We will start off with Oracle and move on to your tarot. So we're going to put our Lord Ganesha card aside for a while, but let's see what we have for you. Creativity, beautiful. Love that. I love that card. And then we have the Divine Feminine, beautiful. And then we have Soulmates. I love that. It's so funny. I sort of anticipated one would have love coming in. I kind of felt that. And we have Protection here. I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background. I don't really know what it is. I think it's a truck outside. So this is incredible, Pal 2. Absolutely love this. So, with Pal 1 and Pal 2, Pal 3, I'm sorry, this is Pal 3. So with Pal 1 and Pal 2, we definitely had different energies, but there's a little overlap, and not surprised because it's the collective. So coming into a new energy of sorts. This is a long time coming for you. This is everything coming in that you wanted, which is really fun. So you've got the creativity. Now, for a lot of you, you're creative and you've been working in the creative realm for quite a while. And some of you could have some projects that are a little bit out there. Right? Now, when we say a little bit out there, we want to be a little clearer about this. You're a little ahead of your time in what you do. So there's always a divine timing. Now, normally when we say divine timing, it's about what you're allowing into your existence at this time. And the universe gives you what you can handle at the time, right? So if you're ready for it, the universe will grant it to you. But this is not what we're talking about for you. This is the opposite. For you, there really was a divine timing. For a lot of the stuff that you were doing, it made sense to you, and you may have created this in a small group or by yourself. So it made sense to you, but it wasn't the divine timing for the world, for it to be integrated into the world. Many different ways it could be integrated into the world. But this is a divine timing aspect for you. Now is the time. This is absolutely the time for you. And it does feel as though you've been sort of waiting for a divine timing aspect. And you may have tried to put out your creativity before, and it not fell flat necessarily, but it didn't necessarily take off in the way that you wanted. And when you look back on that, that probably was a good thing too, because there was so many other things that were going on in your life. There was the strong foundation that needed to be made by you. And of course, now that that's happening, and also there really needed to be, for a lot of you, you're already very connected to the divine feminine. And that's in essence where your creativity comes from. Although the divine masculine is there too, because you're very regimented for a lot of you about getting that creativity out of you, kind of thing. Because if it doesn't, it sort of it almost festers, if that makes sense. So you need to, you need to create. You need to create. It kept you sane. So you were very much in touch with a certain aspect of the divine feminine, but there was a wounded divine feminine that needed to be healed for some of you. And again, this does not necessarily mean a gender thing. Not all of you were women, but it could have been a divine feminine where there was a mother, a wounded mother aspect of part that needed to be healed, and you needed to understand all of that and integrate all of that healing. So there's something that needed to do, and of course it doesn't necessarily drive your creativity, but it's all part of your creativity. It makes your creativity, whatever it is that you do on that level, extremely universal in ways that you can't even imagine, right? In fact, and this happens in writing anyway, the more personal you get, the more universal you get. But this is absolutely for you. The more personal you get, the more universal, right? And that's kind of your key to success in some ways, because you have no qualms about really delving deep. And in this, you have something in common with Paul too. You really allow yourself to delve deep. When you heal, you do it. And again, to be very clear, healing is about just really understanding and really ascertaining where the trauma hit, and making peace with it and releasing it so you can see yourself in this totality. It doesn't mean that you're not whole. You are. It's just coming back and seeing it and then living from that wholeness, right? We also, we always say, we hear it in the spiritual community at all, a lot. You're whole, you're whole, you're whole, and we understand that, but people aren't living from that understanding of it. And unless we're living from it in that action state, then saying it really doesn't mean anything, right? But for you, you're all about the meaning, right? We would say words are cheap, but they're not cheap for you, because some of you are writers. They're actually very expensive and they're really beautiful. But you put your money where your mouth is, and you're here for the experience. And in that, you might want to check out Pal too, if it calls to you only. Because even though it's completely different energy, there is a slight overlap. You might find some more interesting energy there in Pal too, but only if you feel called to. But there's a soulmate action that's coming in. Now, for those of you who've been with me for a while, I do not play into the whole twin flame thing. I really don't. I think it's gone absolutely crazy with the spiritual community. And I think, fortunately, invites in all sorts of different energies of, false twin flames. I mean, I don't know how we've gotten to the point that we have a false twin flame now. But, so I'm not going to go on about twin flames in this, but there is a connection coming in for you. For some of you, you're on the precipice of meeting them, or you may have just met them, but it's on the precipice. This is a relationship that you've not had before. This is a very definite, a finite connection that you've had, probably known them from a previous life. It's definitely a soulmate connection, somebody very much on your own level. Now, we want to be clear here. There is a couple of you out there, maybe not one or two, but there are a couple of you out there who have already met your soulmate, but are wondering if this person is your soulmate. This is usually, and again, this is, as we have with twin flames, particularly, I am going to talk about twin flames a little bit. With twin flames relationships, you do trigger each other. And you are there for the collective, for the greater good. And, you're a mirror for each other. So those relationships can be a little tougher in some ways. It's not that they don't have these beautiful, glorious aspects to them, but they do have that mirroring way. But, the mirror is there for both of you to look at. And you're both able to work with it, especially if you're working separately and figuring out your own stuff, right? And you're not projecting upon each other. If you've gotten to that point, you're not projecting upon each other. Or if you do, you recognize it immediately, because, we're human, we project. So if you're able to do that, then the mirroring of what's going on recently is just showing you what you need to work on. It doesn't mean that you're not soulmates, right? So for a few of you who were wondering, is this person for you? If everything, we want to be very clear, if everything in the relationship is good and healthy, and you will know that, you will absolutely know that, but you've been hitting a little bit of a rough point. It's just, it could be that there's a little bit of mirroring, because there's stuff coming up to the surface for both of you, for you to actualize and move through. But you are moving to sort of sunnier, sunnier beaches, as it were. You are coming out on the other side of that. So if you're one of those people that are wondering, then this still could be your soulmate. Particularly if you've never really had these kind of energies before. You had and you came out of them. You're wondering what's going on. It could be a cycle that you're in. But again, if everything else is healthy and I'm not going to say protecting each other, but yeah, protecting each other, but you're holding each other up, and there's still a lot of light filled in your relationship, then yeah, don't worry, this too shall pass. But for some of you who are bringing in, again, really profound relationships, soulmate relationships, and they could be for some of you twin flames relationships, this is coming in for you. And again, the quickest way for them to come in for you is for you to concentrate on yourself and to let go of the understanding that they're even out there. Just let it go and come back and concentrate on yourself and the creativity. And there's going to be a lot going on for you too. But this relationship is coming in for you. That's one of your wishes that's coming in. The protection has always been there because of everything that you've been through. You really allow yourself to sort of go to hell and back. And again, that came up in Pal 2, but again, very different energy. So you have very, very profound and powerful guides that work with you. And you sort of work with guides and you come back to them. And some of you may be sort of, sounds a little bit weird, but sort of tearing up on guides where you've been working with some guides for a while. Now you're going to be working with different guides coming in, very powerful guides coming in. Now, we also want to say that the soulmate situation, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's all divinely guided. So the way in which you meet might be a little bit strange in a way. It's that, you weren't supposed to meet, you weren't supposed to show up. And that's usually how the twin flames happen too. It's always completely random and when you're not thinking about it. So listen to the divine feminine aspects of self. If you feel as though, somebody says, do you want to go here or you want to go there? And then it feels right, go with the flow. That's how you're going to bring in this energy. But at the same time, don't over focus on it. The minute you over focus on it, it's not going to come in. So focus on yourself, but also for those of you where this energy is coming in, the divine feminine, the wound that you've been working on too. Now, a lot of us have this wound, and again, it's not gender related. A lot of us have this wound, and again, it could be sort of actualized in the actual mother that you had in this lifetime, or the females that you had in this lifetime too. And even though you had a very, very strong conviction for the divine feminine, for Mother Gaia, and a lot of you could be activists in that way, protecting the earth, there's still a very individual aspect of self that with the wounded divine feminine. And again, maybe treated, and this is a divine feminine, this is a gender aspect, being treated the way that you are because you are female, and this, that, and the other. And again, there's a past life element to this too. There's a being destroyed in a past life for who you are, and showing the divine feminine or holding that space for. So, some of you could have been quite angry about this and came into this lifetime sort of angry at, and one way you can tell if you're angry at the church, for instance, if you're angry, and that's not for everyone, but if you held this animosity in a way that not necessarily was unnatural, but maybe a little bit much, this came in from past lives. So that's an indication that all of that needs to be sort of integrated and released. And this is something that you probably were aware of and you needed to go through. Now, that's not to say that, everything's fine and dandy once it's integrated. All of a sudden, the church is wonderful and this, that, and the other, whatever it is that you had previously had no interest in. But there's a new level of understanding. There's a new level of, your blood pressure isn't up every time you think about it. But at the same time, you're also here to bring in the essence of the divine feminine. So whatever it is that you may have been killed for in a previous life, you're here to solidify and to amplify. So of course there is going to be some nervousness, some pain that's going to be initiated in this lifetime, absolutely, because you're going to have to work through those past lifetimes. Now, the easiest way for you to do that is creativity. Now, not to say that what you do is easy. In fact, everything that you do in creative form, again, it's very complex, and it's bringing in sort of the past and the future, and that's why there's a divine timing element to it, because people have to be ready to be able to bring it in. Otherwise, it would have fallen flat. And what you do, it's very powerful work. So the universe has been working with you in many, many ways to build this very firm foundation for you to bring you into whatever it is that you're supposed to do. And again, amplify the divine feminine in its right, in this very powerful right with the divine feminine rising. Now, a lot of people say that she hasn't gone anywhere, and I agree with that. So, but there is an actualization of the divine feminine rising in some ways, and you will stand for that in this lifetime. So, and again, that needs to be done by working through the old. And this is something that you can do for everybody on a sort of a global scale, if through your creativity. And again, like Pile 1, you have the chance to work on one-to-one basis too. You have this capacity to work in a very, very small environment helping, and a very large environment helping. And it's best in this lifetime if you do both. You don't have to choose one or the other. You have skills to do both. So the soulmate's coming in, this beautiful coming out on the other side of this divine feminine, which means that there's an activation of a new profound level to your power here that really cannot be taken away. In past lives it was, in one way or another. But in this lifetime, this is what you're going to stand for. This is coming to fruition in a beautiful way. Now, this creativity, the wishes. Now, you already had the creativity. So the wish that's being granted for you is that your creativity will be integrated into the world the way that you want. But the way in which it's going to be taken is it's going to knock your blocks off. It's going to be, or knock your socks off, right? It's going to be absolutely incredible because there was a divine timing aspect to this. It's going to be really interesting how your work is going to be taken. Now, for some of you could have been quite nervous actually about how this work, or how your creativity, or how you will be seen in the world, because you sense that the world wasn't quite ready for it, right? But actually it's going to have a profound effect in ways that you couldn't have imagined, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's you do the mirror thing very well. I just want to make sure that we have it on the right side. Yeah. You do the mirror thing very well, where you're able to mirror people and where they are. Now, people do not like this. This was a part of your gift in this lifetime, and there's a truthfulness that goes along with it. You have this profound truthfulness in this world, and it's universal truth. People do not like it. They do not like to be told. They do not like to be seen for exactly what they are, especially if they're presenting themselves as something else. So you could have, for want of a better term, pissed off other people's demons, right? But as you come into yourself now, and as you come out on the other side of what you're doing, this is, again, this profound power coming from the divine feminine, which is extremely powerful and badass, by the way. There is this element of like not taking on that energy anymore. But this is going to be escalated as you put out your work, and it's going to have these profound effects. Yeah, you have the Six of Swords. Oh, that's so funny. So the Hermit came out reverse too, and Pile 1, Pile 2. So you probably do want to check out Pile 2 if you're feeling it, because there's definitely, for a lot of you, that there will be some beautiful messages for you. So you're definitely in this new plateau of somewhere that you've never been before, and that should be celebrated. And this means that your creativity has this firmer foundation from which to sort of move into. And again, this can be in working one-on-one. This could be working, in a more global stage. There could be a way that, for a writer, for instance, that you're doing both at the same time with people, where you're working one-on-one, where people read your work, or they look at your work if you're a painter, and they're absolutely, immersed by it, and it shifts them in some way. There's an energy to your work, and again, that happens globally. So there's a new integration here, and there's a new integration coming in for your creativity that you were not able to sort of grasp at before. You tried to grasp at it, but it wasn't tangible. It is now. And if you struggled before of getting your stuff out there, that is out. That's on its way out. You don't have to worry about that. That was a cycle that you come out of. And again, this profound perfection that you have here too. That's beautiful. I love the Three of Swords reversed for you. Gorgeous. Yeah, love it. The Three of Swords, again, all of this sort of essence of betrayal, or what you've been working with the solidified with the divine feminine, that wounds. You've worked with them, you understand them, you've taken them in. There's a Christ-like quality to you. It's an absolutely ridiculous thing to say in some ways, but there's this peaceful sort of Christ-like quality to you, where it's just sort of like running water. Everything just sort of runs off your back in this way. You're not taking on the energy of the world anymore, because we'll tell you why. That energy is old. You're here to provide in a new version of events. So you're not going to get caught up in the old, which means that's wonderful. If people are still caught up in the old world and, talking about externals and talking about this, that, and the other, it's not going to bother you. Hold space for them. There's no judgment, but it's just, you're not going to put your energy there anymore. You can choose where your energy is. So when your energy is focused on what it is that you want completely and totally, there's this essence of clarity that's never been there before, that really amplifies what it is that you want and really allows in whatever you want. Now, this is going to show up in the external because you've got the Eight of Wands here. So you've got contracts coming in. You've got physicalities of this external world that you've created actually showing up for you, and knocking on your door and saying, hey, we want to work with you, we want to do this. And again, profound protection, because you're gonna be rising in the ranks pretty soon. Now, for some of you, you'll be like, you're sort of late bloomers in a way, because of all the work that you've been doing. You feel like, oh my goodness, it's, will I ever make it? Or, this is, and regardless of age, this is more a mentality of, I've been doing this for so long, I don't know if I'm really going to do it. But it's, you were always supposed to be a late bloomer. You just were. Because of, and again, you have this in common with Paul too. You're an old soul. There's a lot of karma you need to go through. There's a lot of things that you were meant to do, and you're never going to be done, but there's an element of you. They say in spirituality particularly, you're never done. You've never really arrived. There's more to do. And that is absolutely true. But for you, there's an element of it that's not quite true. There's an element of you that's coming in. You're coming into this energy now where you have arrived. You are here. Now, you'll always be learning and moving. You're not going to rest on your laurels and say, oh, this is it now. That's the ego. You've worked with the ego. You've moved beyond the ego. You're always going to be improving and trying new things on. You're all about the experiences in this lifetime. In fact, you'll do something just for the experience of it. Just to say, yeah, that's not for me. Tried it, not for me, right? But the interior work that you're doing is really going to show in the exterior. Everything's coming in, and this gloriousness that you have, where you're just not being caught up in any of these energies before. There's no triggers for you anymore. There were triggers coming in, especially with family stuff, and again with the. This has been a big thing for you with the divine feminine wound, and again that. Because it was such a big thing for you, it's not a gender thing, and it wasn't just, I had problems with my mother or whatever. This was past life stuff. It's, asserting your own power from the divine feminine. Again, family, mirroring family, bloodline, all of that. There's so many different aspects of you that was heavy. So coming out on the other side of that, where there's forgiveness, and again, we want to be clear, I said this in Pal 2, it doesn't mean that, if there were situations where people didn't act correctly, that you're forgiving them. You don't need to do that. You just need to forgive the situation and move out of it. It doesn't give them license to do what they did to you and say that it was okay in any way, shape, or form. We would never, ever, ever say that to you in Unicorn Light Tarot. We're here to protect you from that and at the very least support you in everything that you've been through. But there is a way of forgiving the situation, forgiving yourself for being there. You'd be so surprised how many people need to forgive themselves for staying in a situation that they really couldn't get out of, but they still blame themselves. There's nothing you did wrong, but you still blame yourself, right? So even then, just forgiving yourself, whatever it is that you need to get yourself out of the mire. It was deep and it was dark, but you did it. And all of this internal shifts is really just laying the groundwork for this beautiful soulmate to come in. Again, for some of you, it could be a twin flame relationship, but not all of you. It was always my understanding that not everybody will have their twin flame in this lifetime. More twin flames are coming down in this lifetime more than any other, because it's a very specific time as we shift on the earth. But normally the other twin flame stays behind. And you have soulmates in this lifetime. The other twin flame could actually do more for you in different realms to help you. And it's the same. You have, again, we talked about powerful bloodlines in Pal 2. You have incredibly powerful bloodlines and incredibly powerful protection. Now, some of your protection comes from your ancestors, and they are fierce. They are absolutely fierce, and they can bring in. So when you work with your guides, who are also very Very, very powerful. You can work with your ancestors. And a lot of you have started doing that too. Instead of turning to guides, you've been working with your ancestors. Now, you don't necessarily need to have known them personally or lived, or even have heard of them. You can just click into your family bloodline. They are absolutely fierce. And they are really able to, because of all the work that you've done, they really are able to clear the way for you in some ways. Because, it feels as though you've moved forward and then there's a block, move forward and then there's a block. At least that's the way you've interpreted it. There's just more for you to work through. But it would be nice for you to have that easy breezy sort of cover girl, like effortless life. And that's what you can have now. That's what you can have, bringing that essence in as you move forward. So again, you have the soulmate coming in. And for some of you, you have the soulmate energy already. It's just about reaffirming it. You have the divine feminine wound that has been it's been cleaned, and it might still feel a little raw, but you're completely different. It's healing from the inside out. It's absolutely beautiful. And again, moving your creativity forward in many, many different ways. And again, if you've been working on stuff before and it's not gone out before, it will. This internal work that you've been doing will show up on the external. Stay with your protection here. Stay with your beautiful guides. Click into the energy of your ancestors, and they will clear out the last remnants of this as you move forward. But integrating and having this new profound sense of connection and this real new connection with your own sense of power, that really can't be shifted anymore, is coming back to a sense of who you are. That's really what's going on for you now. And it's the greatest gift for you, because with that really clicked in to that powerful sense, there's nothing that you can't do. So let's go ahead. I want to just finish off with a couple of magical unicorn cards, of course. So you have gloriousness, sis, gloriously human. That's exactly what you're here to do, to be gloriously human. And nobody knows that better than you, really. And psychedelic, wisdom from the fairy folk. You got elemental energy there. You can turn to, and also that energy comes in to enlighten up sometimes. Just get out there, lighten things up. Things could have been a little bit heavier for you. Just a little indication that everything is moving forward with the light, a little lighter as everything solidifies. But you're absolutely here to be gloriously human, to have all the experiences and to hold space for others who want to be gloriously human too. There's a lot of people who live their life that they want to be perfect, and we're just not. And it's nothing that can be attained. In fact, if we click into our flaws, that's what makes us beautiful, right? And this is something that you understand. You hold space for other people. And this is something that your creativity really shows people too. It really gives people permission to be themselves. And that's absolutely gorgeous. So of course the universe is going to support you in any way to get this work out there, right? So you are on the precipice of something wonderful. Go be you, pile 3. This is what we have for you, sending you so much love, energy, and light for exactly who you are and where you are in the world. Feel free to go ahead and subscribe if you would like to, and hit that bell icon so you have 2 of these beautiful, gorgeous, deep readings every week. And of course, we have tons of links down below from the website, working one-on-one, to the podcast, whatever it is. Always listen to your intuition. They're all down below. Check them out if you want some more support. They're right there for you. All right, my darlings, until we meet again, pile 3, take care. Bye-bye.